I'm live, it says. Howdy, howdy. Sorry, it took me a second to get live here. Um, Things were just going really slow. I'm getting myself all settled in, but you all know how this works. Well, maybe you don't. Let me. Let's. Today is Wednesday the 19th. There we go. Now board is loaded and working. I'm Ryan. I'm the calculus tutor. This is where I answer your math questions, your homework questions, your test review, quiz questions. You got a question wrong on the test, you want to talk about that specific question? Sure, let's talk about it here. I do not care about protecting teachers' tests. I do not care. So like send me, if you take a picture of a test and you're not supposed to, I don't care. I'm not going to turn you in. I don't care about cheating. I will send me a question you're supposed to do, by yourself or whatever. Send it to me. I'll work through it. You can copy. I'm going to teach you the math as we work on it, right? If you have the math question, I will answer it. Basically, no questions asked on my part, which isn't entirely true. I ask you some questions when you submit the question, but it's all stuff to help me give you a good answer. It's not to find out whether or not you're supposed to be, getting help with that question. I don't care. If you're going through the trouble of sending me a question and watching the stream or watching the VOD to see my answer, then you are engaging with the math, and that's going to help you learn way more than not seeking out help would have helped you learn. So send me any math question you have. I'll answer it. I will help you with that. Let me get some stuff set up. If you want to submit a math question, then what you want to do is you want to go to thecalculustutor.com. Oops. However, I know that right now thecalculustutor.com is not actually prepared for you to visit it. So give me 1 second to do that. I had automated part of this, and then I unautomated it, and I've been forgetting. It'll be re-automated at some point. I just need to figure out what I'm actually doing here. There we go. Do you have a black screen? Oh, I think you do. There we go. Okay. So hopefully you go to thecalculus2.com, you're looking around. I bet you can figure it out. There's a button for submitting a question right on the homepage. I'm getting these pages updated really quick with the current stream. They have yesterday's stream on there. Um, this is weird. Why? Uh-huh. Oh, I see what happened. It has my schedule in here twice. I don't know how that happened. Let me. Oh, you don't want to do that. Sorry, y'all. There was like a weird duplicated element on the site. I don't know how I mean, I must have done it, but I don't remember doing it. It must have been a mistake. So I had to get rid of that and not break other stuff in the process. I think we're good to go, though. All right. Hi again. Let's do this right. I'm Ryan, the calculus tutor. I'm here to answer your math questions. You can go to thecalculustutor.com to get your math questions answered. So if you go to thecalculustutor.com, this is what you'll see. Man, the stream is lagging. The stream appears to be lagging significantly. Or let's try this. Turn off the screen share. I'm gonna refresh this. See if it actually is the stream that's lagging or if it's just my connection to it. All right. All right. I think we're back. We're back in business. All right. You go to thecalculustutor.com. This is what ye shall see. You'll scroll down a little bit. This is the streaming section. You can watch the stream right here. Go to the notes. So right before I switched to the website, that screen you said where it said go to thecalculustutor.com, that was the notes. That's where I do all the math problems. You can access that document, that file, and scroll around and look at it. So yeah, so this is where you do that. Go to notes, but that's what you want. Submit a question. That's going to take you to the streaming, the like specifically the streaming page of my website. And again, you can watch the stream here if you want, but it's going to scroll you down to the submit homework problem section. There's a homework submission form button right here. You can click this button, or as you can see, email your questions to Ryan at thecalculustutor.com. Me, Ryan at thecalculustutor.com. Here's guidelines for what to put in your email, because email is just an empty text box. So it's good to have some guidance. But these things are the exact same things the form asks for. So let's click on the form so you can see what that looks like. Now, before you see the form, it might ask you to sign into your Google account. Feel free to use your school Google account or use your personal one. You have to sign into a Google account to submit the form because you can submit files, and that's just a Google requirement. If your school account then tells you you can't access the form, which it might, I'm hoping it doesn't, but it might, feel free to just log out and use your personal Google account if you have one. If you don't have a personal Google account or you don't want to use it, you can just email me, Ryan at thecalculustutor.com. Everything I go through on this form, though, would be a good idea to include in your email. Um, so this is still advice for you, or you can just go right back to the website and look at those 4 little guidance points. But yeah, so let's go through the form really quick. You just have to check the box and say, yes, this is my email address. Tell me who you are. This is just your preferred name. So when I shout you out, um, sorry. So when I shout you out, um, say, oh, this question was submitted by such and such, you'll know I'm talking about your question. Yeah, you tell me your pronouns too if you care, because I'll often be referring to you while I'm working on the problem. Such and such uh mentioned that fractions were giving them some trouble, that sort of thing. But yeah, next bit, where did the question come from? The idea here is tell me the teacher and the class. So, Mr. Jameson's calculus, AB calculus AB, uh, Mix Anderson's algebra 1. Right. Simple as that. That's to help me organize these problems. If this isn't from a class, you can just say it's not from a class. Or you can tell me, instead of telling me the teacher and the class, you can tell me, oh, uh, maybe you're an adult, a parent or whatever, and it's just from your life. You're like, oh, this is just a problem from work or something like that, or a yard problem or a planning problem, whatever. But yeah, feel free to submit any questions at all, any question that you would like a mathematical viewpoint on, and for someone to help you understand the mathematical underpinnings of the problem or situation. I fully expect most of the questions I get are going to be homework problems, test review problems, that sort of thing. But please send me anything. All right. So once you've told me who you are and where the question comes from, and those should be very, very quick. Um, just a, just a couple of words, if even, in each box. What is your question? Now, you don't have to retype the entire math question, right? That would be such a pain in the butt. It wouldn't even be worth submitting a question, I don't think, for most people. Instead, uh, so you don't have to retype the whole math problem. That's why I've allowed you to attach files, attach images specifically, take a picture of the problem. So if you're going to take a picture of the problem, what do you even need to tell me? So this box right here is for you to be a little bit more specific. So for you to tell me, number 17. So first of all, this is good for you to direct me to the part of your picture where the problem is, because especially if you send me a picture of your entire worksheet or your entire textbook page, um, I need to know which problem specifically you want me to focus on. But then, even more than that, what would be helpful is if you tell me what about the problem was giving you trouble, if you can identify that, right? This says be as specific as possible. So you might say, um, factoring, um, always um, gets me stuck. Boom. And now I can look at number 17 and I will understand, oh, you needed to factor in there somewhere, and I can pay attention to that. And I'll go through the whole problem, but when we get to the factoring part, we can pay special attention to it. Or before we even start the problem, I might talk a little bit about factoring, and then we can use that to jump into the problem. But anyway, just that sort of thing to really help me focus on um what would be helpful for me to what would be helpful for you rather for me to spend more time talking about. But maybe it's never, and maybe for you it's not as specific as that, the type of, problem you're sending me or the group of problems you're sending me. um Maybe the issue is these problems aren't like the ones we did in class, right? That sort of thing. Maybe that's a specific thing. You're like, oh, I felt like I knew how to do the ones in class, and we did practice problems in class, and I did those just fine, and I got the right answer. But these ones are different in some way. Now, if you could tell me a little bit more specifically how they're different, that would be useful. But there might be a easier way for you to do that rather than having to sort of figure it out and put it into words. So here's where you direct me to specifically which question or which part of the question and what about that question was giving you trouble to the best of your ability. Um, and honestly, if the thing you want is just to watch me walk through a problem using best practices or whatever, or explaining various pitfalls, that's totally fine too. You can just send me a problem, tell me which number, and say, I'd really just like to follow along as you work through it. That's totally valid. But anyway, you direct me to that. Um, The other thing though, when you attach images, so let's jump down to that. So this is just you directing me where, but when you attach the images, um, the goal with the images is to be clear and complete. So sure, send me a picture of the entire textbook page or the entire worksheet. That's fine. Um, or send me a picture of specifically the problem. Regardless, what you want to make sure is included either in the one image you send, or you can send up to 5 images actually. Make sure the instructions are also there. So oftentimes homework problems have a separate block of instructions for what you're supposed to do for like these dozen problems or these 8 problems or whatever. So make sure those instructions are either in your picture or include an additional picture. Also, make sure your picture includes, or you include a picture of any charts or diagrams or tables, anything like that, including if they give you a blank coordinate axis. Make sure that's in there. I will take that, grab it and throw it in the notes, and that's what I will graph on rather than making my own or using a nice coordinate axis or just throwing a Desmos graph in there. I will graph it on the thing that you're supposed to graph it on to show you what it's supposed to look like, and to help you see what yours will look like on your page. That's sort of my goal. um, so charts, diagrams, any little things you're given that are part of the problem, if I have all the pieces of the problem, I can use them to help you. The other thing that could be helpful, the clear part is make sure the text is viewable, is readable, is not blurry, right? And make sure you haven't cropped out part of it. But yeah, and then the other thing you might include is either any work you've already done on that problem. If you like got stuck or you got all the way through it, but you got the wrong answer or something, send me the work you've already done on that problem. I promise the work you've done won't show up on stream. That's just for me to look at to see what you tried. Um, but maybe like when that example I gave, like, like, oh, these problems aren't like the ones we did in class. Send me the ones you did in class. Send me your notes or send me a picture from the board or whatever. Uh, any one additional little piece you give me about what you've actually done related to this problem can be super, super helpful for me when I'm trying to help you actually figure out the thing you're struggling with, right? Because the thing in front of you oftentimes in my experience is not the precise thing that you're actually struggling with. There's a thing in there along the way, part of the process that really is giving you trouble. And I just want to try to find that, help you find that. Um, yeah, that's it. You can also include, so if your homework is online, Canvas, a web work, My Open Math, whatever, Fuel Ed, feel free to take a screenshot and just attach that. Um, if the problem's spread over, you have to scroll a lot to see the whole problem, include multiple screenshots, totally fine. If you have a PDF, if you just have an entire packet, test review packet or just a homework packet or whatever, send the entire PDF. That's totally fine. It's just even more important that you tell me specifically where in the packet to go, so like page 5, um, number 32 or number 3 or whatever. Because when teachers put together these packets, oftentimes they'll take a problem from this place and a problem from this place and sort of put them all together, which means you might have multiple number 3s or number 17s in a single packet. Or if the numbering starts over in each section or something, right? All of this stuff can happen. So uh, the more clear you can be with me. That said, none of this is meant to be a burden. This whole process is meant to be as smooth as possible. So do as much as is worth it to you to do to get your questions submitted, and I'll meet you the rest of the way. Um, so yeah, that's the homework. That's the submission process. When I'm answering questions, I will answer them. Um, in these notes, you can see yesterday we worked on some calculus stuff. And you can see all the notes over here. So what's useful about this, right, is as I'm working, I'm only showing part of the screen. And if you need to see something I scrolled past, you could pop into chat and say, hey, can you go back a little bit? And I'll do my best to pay attention to that. But what would be even more convenient for you is on the website, just follow the go to notes buttons and it will just open this document and you can go wherever you want in the document, to your heart's content. And you can also, if you click my picture in the upper right, uh, it will allow you, it will then move to me and follow me and as I go. And then if you need to stop following me so you can go back and review something, you can totally just scroll away and it'll break the connection. Yeah, this Miro service is, I really, really like it. Um, so yeah, that's what we're doing. That's what this is. Let me check for we worked through some calculus stuff last night. I did mention last night that there was still one more question I was going to go through. I ended up going through that. I ended up working up notes on that question outside of the stream and just sending those along to the student. I could go back and redo that question on stream here, but what I want to look for first is any question submissions for today. It doesn't look like anything on the form. If we check the email, I always got to check spam and do a little refresh. I was going to say something came in, but it was the YouTube notification that I'm live. So clearly, okay, cool. I don't see any question submissions right at the moment. I will say, just in terms of some housekeeping, I am not going to be streaming tomorrow. I have not streamed the last few Thursdays. I've just like skipped it. Part of this is because nobody's been using them, right? I want to keep doing this. I want to keep a cadence, and I was doing 5 days a week for a little bit just to really get a surge and really and commit myself to doing it. I'm committed now. I do this pretty easily. I don't really get nervous about. I mean, granted, I'll start to get nervous once I get any sort of an audience. Um, but then I'll get used to it again. But for right now, I'm used to doing this. I don't feel or as self-conscious about it as I did right at the beginning. It's crazy how quickly we adapt and acclimate to things and feelings and stuff. But um, I'm trying to figure out when does it make sense for me to stream. I did 5 days a week just to sort of a shotgun approach, right? Of like, well, if I try every day, I can figure out which days make sense and which ones don't pretty quickly. Keep streaming the days that make sense, stop streaming the days that don't. Part of that was I switched the Tuesday time to a late stream. Um, I stopped streaming Mondays. I haven't streamed Mondays the last couple of weeks. I guess like I just said, I also haven't been streaming Thursdays the last couple of weeks either. That was less planned. Each of those, there's sort of an intention that I probably will, and then they sort of get canceled. Um, just because other stuff comes up. Um, so I think I am figuring out my streaming schedule. Um, so here's the proposed. Here's a proposed streaming schedule. Sunday chill stream, which is 9 a.m. No, 9 a.m. No. Which is 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Then we have the Tuesday late stream, which is 9 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. So that's just later at night. And my thinking there is that some students have jobs or extracurriculars or just other responsibilities after school. Or a lot of students just, you've spent all day at school. You don't want to continue, you want a break. You want a little bit of not school time before you dive into your homework for the day. So I see a lot of potential at this later night time, 9 to 10:30 p.m. I could potentially even go later. Um, and if it becomes attended, I will. If we're still talking about stuff at 10:30, I will just keep streaming. I won't. I literally won't have anything ever after this that I have to get to. So this is a good. This is a good one to extend. Sunday, uh, there will always be a possibility of well, no, right now, I have a student right after my stream. I could change that, um, but I won't until it becomes necessary and meaningful. Alright, so Sunday and Tuesday, and then I'm also thinking I will do the Wednesday, um, 3:30 PM to 5 PM. This is this is early release for the students in my local school district here in Eugene. Um, these students get out of school at 2 p.m. So that's 90 minutes that they have to do whatever, figure stuff out. So it's not immediately after school. The current Thursday stream is scheduled for 3:30, which is immediately after school lets out. And my thinking there is it could be a good option for some students might prefer to just finish their math homework and not even have to take it home. Just deal with math exclusively at school. I That's a good strategy. I've recommended that for some students. Um, but that said, I'm not really getting any attendance at any of these. So not doing certain days where it would be much nicer to me to not have an afternoon sort of interruption, like a thing I have to do afternoon that sort of chunks it out into an early, a pre-stream and a post-stream time of my day. Just having that continuous time all the way through can be really, really useful. So I think that's what I'm gonna move towards. Um, 3 days a week. Right now, I am so willing to add a fourth day, even a fifth day of the week. I'm so willing to extend the length of these streams. I think for my own sake, I probably wouldn't want to go much past 2.5, 3 hours. Um, really ever. Um, I'm also, especially if these start getting traction, I'm gonna start. I'm I need to advertise at the university and LCC, the community college campuses, because I think those students would take advantage of this. Um, high school students, or sorry, college and university students, not specifically not high school students, are much more interested in free services, even if it takes them a little bit of work to access those free services, because they're in a position where they're all of those little extra things like a tutor and stuff. It's more likely that they're going to have to pay for it themselves out of pocket. Whereas high school students are almost. I think I've had one high school student in all of God, between 10 and 15 years of doing this, um, I think I've had one high school student ever that paid me themselves. And they were a senior, and it kind of seemed like it was something you know, they were just really on top of stuff. Um, and it just, I never ended up interacting with their parent. They kind of like a college student. They just contacted me. They were seniors, set up tutoring, arranged it. I billed them directly. They paid me via Venmo, just like my college students do, or the parents of my high school students normally do. Anyway, um, so yeah, so this is our. I think. Yeah, sorry, y'all. I was noticing a hiccup in the stream. Um, I think this might be better. The Thursday time of being right after school, and I don't really want to push it much later. I totally would if I knew people were going to use it, right? But like just to do it, just to keep having that stream day, I'd rather have the time back. And if I have 3 solid days, um, that all and the what's happened is these feel like the most meaningful streams. These feel like the most meaningful times, even though nobody's taking advantage of them. I will adjust them as I get data from actual users. Ba, ba, ba. Okay, so nothing on the main page, but on the streaming page, I have my count or my streaming schedule. Oh, wait. Let's go back. I do know. Homework help streams. Yeah, let's. So this is gonna homework help streams are now gonna be Sundays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. Let's see what that looks like on the banner. do that. Homework help streams every Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. That's the new cadence. So let's go there. Let's adjust the actual schedule. Oh, wait. No. I need to adjust the schedule. Which this appear. Enable Visual Builder. Okie dokie. There we go. We got that adjusted. Now we'll go to the streaming page. Similar adjustments. Builder. Ow. Okay. Oops, where'd I go? Okay, there we go. Huzzah. Okay. Then we'll also adjust this. All right, y'all. I think we've got that adjusted. That's really excellent. Which means the next stream after this would be the Sunday stream. And I can get myself, and I can schedule that. So that's going to be Sunday. What's the 23rd is Sunday. What does my, hold on a sec, what does my thumbnail say? Okay. Sunday, it'll be Sunday at 11. Look at that. Got the Sunday stream all scheduled now? That will make that so much easier. I'll get the website updated. When I'm done, so that it'll be all ready for the Sunday stream. Yeah, that'll be really excellent. Let's go and let's check for questions. Okay, I don't see any. We're, halfway into the stream. There's nobody watching. So what I was doing before the stream, and sort of what is sort of keeping my attention right now, the sort of thing that I am pouring myself in, that I am, the thing that I want to spend time on, right? The thing that I keep going back to. I like having a thing like that. And I want to try to figure out a way to show you that. Show you what I'm working on. It's on this computer, not the one I'm streaming on, so let's Hey, that worked. I was able. Let me just send it to this device. Nice. So let me working on here. If I that, it just converts the whole thing to the slideshow. Okay. Reload this because my stream feed keeps freezing, so I don't know what's actually happening. You all see a black screen till I come in and do that. Perfect. Okay. Okay. Neat. So if I just tap, okay, I can do that. Okay. Uh, ignore the. Okay. This is a presentation I'm working on. Project Asunder. I think I've talked about Project Asunder a little bit. It's the TTRPG system and setting I'm working on. This is the pitch, the presentation I'm making to my uh, who will I hope will be my players. It says pitch for the polycule. That's us, my polycule. Um, we all we have every 2 weeks we get together for like a game day that happens kind of without fail. Honestly, we've gotten really consistent about it. It's really nice. It used to be a lot of D&D or other TTRPGs. We're actually doing way less of that these days, mostly just because things got interrupted and stuff. But so Project Asunder partially is an attempt to get us back into playing some TTRPGs on a regular basis, but it's also an attempt to kickstart my desire, or not kickstart my desire, but kickstart my project that I have this desire for to create my own RPG system. Um, anyway, this is the pitch I'm working on. It's not done, but this is what I was working on. Can I show you? Yeah, I could also take this. Okay. Um, I, I really hope the stream isn't actually freezing and it's just um my feed of the stream that's freezing. Um, this is the outline uh for this presentation. Here's the outline sort of for session 0. Uh, this whole document is my project journal. I'm a big fan of making project journals for anything I work on that I'm going to be coming back to. If it's just something I can sit down and do kind of in one sitting, it doesn't really need one. Though I oftentimes will still open up just like a text file to like have some working notes in. But yeah, project journal has been essential for me. This is the most extensive I've ever been with like using the tabs and stuff. This is me playing. This document was actually where I first started playing with Google Docs tab. These new features they have with different tabs and things like that. I think it's really great. But anyway, this is the outline that I'm making this presentation off of or based on. So, kind of for me a little bit, like something I need to do is um, we're having a game weekend this weekend, and in fact, we're sort of making it big. We're doing like people are coming over on Friday. We're doing like a sleepover just so we can have more time together. And so I don't know if I'm giving this presentation Friday or sometime Saturday. Um, I kind of hope maybe Friday and we can sort of ponder on it and then maybe do a little bit, maybe do session 0 on the Saturday or something. But anyway, I have not shown this to anybody yet. And I'm still not showing it to anybody, right? Um, but this is a good opportunity for me to talk about it as if I am showing it to somebody, and that's nice practice. This is Project Asunder. In Project Asunder, scroll. You're not extraordinary. There are no more extraordinary people. Just survivors and those who live a little longer. And those who survive a little longer. Project Asunder is a trilogy of campaigns. Project Asunder is an original TTRPG setting that will implement bespoke mechanics. It will take place over 3 campaigns: Scavs, Prelude, and Asunder. In Scavs, we will build the mechanics. In Scavs, we will collaboratively build this game system from the ground up. We'll have persistent characters that are shaped by each one-shot adventure. So, yeah. Then, at some point, we will begin a new campaign called Prelude. Prelude will jump back in time and will collaborate to build the world that was. The goal here, the goal of Prelude, is to set the stakes, create characters, and a world worth saving. So Scavs will build the mechanics, Prelude will build the world, and finally, at some point, we will move into Campaign 3, Asunder. And there, it's time to save the world. This is where this will get more into like the heroic adventure, similar to D&D, but with the Asunder flair, whatever that ends up being, whatever we end up building. We'll have a we'll be using mechanics that are deeply connected to both the world and our characters because they were built to support those things. I want you all to be aware that this is a planned trilogy of campaigns with no guarantee that I will be the person DMing Prelude or Asunder, or even that there will be a DM for those, because part of Scavs might be us building into a DM-less system. We'll see. So, what we're here today to discuss, really though, is Campaign 1, Scavs. Actually, I will mention, I have a considerable amount of work done on Scavs. I have very, very little work done on Prelude, and even less done on Asunder. These are not meant to be short necessarily campaigns. They are meant to be long term, each of them. I don't know how long term is, but I like this idea that we have a planned, at some point, we will make new characters all together, begin in a new but somewhat familiar world. And the I guess the contrast both of time and the world between the world of Scavs and the world that preceded it in Prelude will give us something interesting to play with, I think. So yeah, uh, I wanted it to be clear that that uh, there is even more to this than just what we're going to focus on today. But there's plenty for us to focus on today with campaign one, Scabs. Scabs is a survival exploration looter. It takes direct inspiration, sort of has the vibes of Last of Us Factions, of Arc Raiders, and of a game you've probably never heard of called Forever Winter, a game that isn't out yet. It's in very early access. Um, but there's still a lot known about this game and the world of this game. Um, yeah, those are sort of what brought me to this, what I keep going back to, what I keep thinking of to keep me aligned to this, aligned to Scabs and the world and game we're trying to create. The purpose here is for us to have a playtest sandbox. Um, so a world we can contribute, we can build, and might be a little, and not just a world, but a game that might be a little different every time we sit down to play it. But there will be character continuity. We won't be uh, just picking up run of the mill fresh character. Like, no, kind of like Gloomhaven, your character will change from session to session, and you'll play the same character. Granted, you can make a new character if you want. Um, but yeah, it'll offer character continuity even in the midst of all of this experimentation. There will also be a persistent dynamic world uh, with a fully simulated astrological processes that are tied into the mechanics, um, things like that. So a persistent dynamic world that sort of exists despite you instead of existing for you. The world is here and you're just in it. Oh, we're getting towards the last slides that I haven't done any sort of animations on or anything, and this slide isn't finished yet. Um, these are the core mechanic systems that sort of already exist. It's going to use a 2D tin system with stacking advantage and disadvantage. Uh, a major focus of the game is going to be the hex crawl of going out into the world and um, exploring this very dangerous world. Um, it is stats light. There's no classes. Um, I need to refer back to my uh, outline. Oh, excuse me. There's no levels, no classes. I'm thinking of sort of a tag. The general idea of a tag-based character builds, and then physically that will, in terms of components, that'll be sort of card-based. Um, and what's great about this is you're not only free to make your own components, you have to, because they don't exist yet, and that's going to be part of this game is making the components together. And just having really rough components that we can use for a little bit until we figure out what we want them to look like and we decide we want to put the trouble into producing nice ones because the design has stabilized enough for it to be worth it. Um, progression. So if there's no levels and no classes, how is your character dynamic? How does your character change from session to session? Skills and loot. You will have different gear at the end of a session than you did at the beginning of the session. You will have different skills, or you will have additional skills. Actually, maybe different ones. Maybe you'll have lost some because there will be an element of that in here too. Your skills might have subtly changed from the beginning to the end, or from this set. You had from this session, and then you finally progressed over a couple of sessions, and now you have some new skills or different skills for a different session. And then something that's not on the slide that I will put on the slide, like I said, it's not finished. Uh, there's an inventory management mini game that is somewhat central to this. And that's it. That's where I'm at so far. I have one more major section, which is just about the initial setting. I'm gonna talk about the world that I've envisioned so far. That's a lot of like vibes. There's not a ton of specifics nailed down yet, but there is some direction in terms of tone and theme and like the state of the world, um, and the reality that the characters in this world find themselves in. Um, and part of that is, and that's why the inventory management mini game is kind of central to this. Is this this first campaign? I really wanted to. I've been really fascinated lately with um scabs in video games or games in general, but largely video games. You can see from that inspo slide that like all of those were video games. None of those were tabletop games or anything else. Um, Video games just sort of have all of the things, right? They have writing, they have art, they have mechanics, so like it's really easy to take inspiration from video games. Um, what was I saying? Um, Oh, in these games and in various worlds, oftentimes, and I'm kind of thinking specifically of like Cyberpunk 2077. One of the sort of factions that isn't like a cohesive faction is the scabs that you run into, the sort of most generic of enemies in the game that don't, they aren't part of a gang or anything like that. They're just generic, like, oh, we just need fodder for you to like fight against and have conflict with, so they can just be scabs. But this idea of scavengers as a group of people, that there is a group, there are people in the world regarded as scabs, and they exist in this place where they are scavenging at the edges and from the remains of something that existed before to try to eke out survival within the decay that has been left behind. Um, that's just been really fascinating to me. At one point I was playing Cyberpunk and I had some encounter with the scabs, and it just occurred to me. I was like, why isn't one of the backgrounds in this game being a scab? Right? You have your nomad, you have your corpo, you have your street kid, and the street kid is maybe kind of close to a scab, but is specifically not though, actually. Um, and just was thinking about what are these scavs stories, right? Like, obviously they're NPCs, but like if you sort of immerse yourself in it and you think of yourself as the character and you think of the other character as characters, um, they came from somewhere, they have a story, they're the main character of their own life. And in fact, the life of a scab is uh dramatic. Um, but they are always scabs are never powerful enemies. They're never a powerful faction, right? They're always kind of the weakest one. Um, and so I was really fascinated by that. I was like, what? I was like, that there feels like there's a game there of trying to, and so looting is, it's looting, but it's scavenging is more than anything else, right? Uh, so yeah, that's that's the project. That's Project Asunder that I'm working on. Um, that's just a major thing that has a lot of my attention lately. And I've progressed. I showed you the project journal document. Um, you could see how much was in there uh, that I've already sort of thought about and have, you know, I don't think any system in this game is totally 100% complete at this point because that's kind of not the point. And this is something I had to remind myself of in the process. I was getting really stressed out. I was like, I want to share this with people, but it feels so far from finished because I forgot my goal was not to finish it before I shared it with people. My goal was to have a starting point to share with people. And I totally have that. I totally so completely have what I think is a interesting, neat starting point. Um, and that's what the presentation is. I tried to make it kind of stylized and cool. I've been watching a YouTuber named Rilo, Raloe. And Rilo just makes these really cool video essays that are just dripping with style. Um, and uh, their video essays definitely influenced um, the look of my presentation. Um, let's check for question submissions. Okay. I'm not seeing anything. Oops. Sorry if you could hear that. I do have to go to the restroom. So, why am I putting those away? I'm going to need those. So, I'm going to step away for just a second and do that. I suppose I will put you back here. There we go. So I'll put you here. I'm going to mute up, step away for a second, and I'll be back. Howdy, I'm back. I'm back again. Shady's back. Tell a friend. All right. Well, let's check submission. I do have a student after this, so even if there are questions, I don't have a ton of time left to answer them. But we can check and make a plan, that sort of thing. Okay. I'm not seeing any. So what I want to do here is get the website updated with Sunday's stream, and then I think I'm going to take off. As always, please submit questions, even in between streams. If I notice there's like a lot of questions coming in, which has not happened to this point, but I'm just planning for the future. It's entirely possible I can pop on and do a Thursday stream even if there wasn't one planned or something like that. I do have a pretty busy weekend coming up, but so Friday, Saturday, there's no chance of me doing anything, but Thursday maybe. And like, no, I'll always get to a Sunday. And there we go. Website's all updated and ready for me to come back for Sunday's stream. Then I had a good stream, showed you what I'm working on. Yeah, I'll be back definitely Sunday, but please reach out before then. Submit questions anytime at all. It's the same way you do it. Well, really quick, one last thing. So yeah, I just realized if you go to, so hold on, if we go, if you're on my website, right? If you're on my website, when I'm not live, this pink box goes away. So the submit a question button on the front page also goes away. But the thing that doesn't go away is this homework help banner up here. You can click on it, and that takes you to the homework help page, or the homework help page. Again, this pink box will be gone, but the homework submission form button is not in that box. So all of this will jump upwards. So you can submit a question even when I'm not live, You can bookmark that form or put my email address in your contact, like in your email address contacts. Um, and seriously, just shoot me an email whenever you have a math question. That's totally fine. But yeah, for now, we're just gonna call it at that. Boop. I'm gonna end the stream and say have a wonderful night. Bye.